there everyone! Well, I finally finished the Easter egg beading tutorial that I'd been talking about on Facebook forever. And so here it is. I've got my two different bead types that I used. It's the same design, but I used two different bead types. So the white one over here is using check 11-aught beads and 2x3 rondelles. So if you want to do this particular design, you're going to need 128 of the 2x3 rondelles. And then you'll probably need about a tube, about 3/4 of a 5.5-inch tube. So this is my tube here with the blue beads. And you can see I still have I have a pile over here and I have a little bit. So about I used about 3/4 of it. And I think this has, what, 18 grams? If I'm right, I can't remember exactly. But I used a good chunk of it. Now the other one, this is the tutorial, it's going to be based on this one. I used, instead of the rondelles, I used Toho beads, both the 11s and the 8s. So I used 8/aughts, and the color is Silver Lined Crystal number 21 for Toho, and Silver Lined Light Sapphire number 33. And all of this information will be in the description box below, so go ahead and check that. You don't have to worry about remembering. And again, you'll need the 128 of the 8/aughts, and then you'll need that, almost a full tube of your 11/aughts to do this. So, but before I, let me show you the size of the egg first. I'm going to move these out of the way. So here's the plastic egg. This is plastic egg that I got from Dollar Tree, and it comes in a package of 10. So lengthwise, the egg is, it's about a little over 2 inches or so, maybe a little, 2.5 inches, give or take. And centimeters, it's what, 7 centimeters? So here. And then I measured the widest part. So in order to do the netting over here, it's based on the widest part, and that is 5.5 inches is what I came up with. So exactly right there. They both meet up at 5.5 inches. And centimeters, so centimeters, it's about 14.5, maybe a little bit less. Not quite. Oh, just a little more than 14 centimeters. So this is the widest portion of the Easter egg. And these are these fillable plastic Easter eggs that pop open. And so this one seems to be sealed shut. So, yeah, this one is, they're just cheap plastic. Like I said, I got them at the Dollar Tree, and you pretty much get them anywhere. Oh, there they go. Here it is. And it closes shut. So they should be fairly easy to find. And all right, so that's all there is. I think I gave you all the information you need, and let's get started. Okay, so to start our egg embellishment, what you're first going to do is pick up a row of 8s and 11s, and it's going to be a total of 7 8s with 3 11s in between. So over here I start with, so if you count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what you need. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of 11. So there's 7 sets of 3. And then what you're going to do is you're going to leave a good long tail. So, it's fine if you leave it an 8 to 10 inch tail. And if you need a stopper bead, go ahead and put in a stopper bead. And then what you're going to do is take your working end, and you are going to go ahead and skip these 2 8s over here, and you're going to go into this 8 over here. And this is going to be the start of our second row now, basically, of our netting. And so this is what you're going to get. You'll get this little loop where the 2 8s are lined up. Now what you're going to do is pick up 7 beads. So 3, 4, and 7. So I've got 3 11s, then my 8, and then my 3 more 11s. And so now I'm going to skip over this one here, and I'm going to go into this one. If I can just get through it. So you're just going to go into that, and I'm just holding on to this because I didn't put a stopper bead on, but whoops. All right, let's not make it so clumsy. And there it is. So now you have, you know, you're partially through the first row. And again, you're going to pick up 7. So you're always going to be picking up 7 no matter where you're at. So pick up your 7. And again, it's 3, 1, 3. And you're going to go into this last 8 here at the beginning. And there you are. So this is what you're going to end up with. So you got 2 rows done. And now to make the turn, to start the next one, you're going to pick up 7 again. And pick up your 8, sorry. And then your 3 11s. So 3 11s and 8, and then 3 11s. And you're going to go into this one over here. So now, from now on, you'll know exactly where you need to go. It's the ones that are kind of sticking out. You won't be worrying about these 2 over here. They're not sticking out. This one's kind of what's sticking out. And here we go. Just secure, pull everything nice and tight, and there you are. And again, we will pick up 7 once more. So I got my 3 11s that I got to pick up. And that one doesn't look right. There's my 8. And my 3 11s again. So again, 7 beads. This is a net 7. And I'm going to go into this one over here because that's the one that's sticking out. It's popped out a little bit. And there you are. So you have 1 more in this row, which is going to go there. So I'm going to pick up my 7 beads again. So 3 11s, my 8, and my 3 11s. Once more, I'm going to go into this one over here. And that's all you're going to do. You're going to continue building this exact same way. So now I'm just going to turn this way. We'll start working back up again. And again, nothing changes. It's always going to be 3, 1, and 3. And again, so you're here, you want to go into this one because this is the one that's sticking out. And you can tell, see, these are not sticking out. Those are the ones that are, you've already got 2 sort of rows going through it. This one's only got a single row. Or single line, row, whatever you want to call it. And that's it. And that is all you're going to do. And you're going to continue building until you end up with 20 of these at the bottom row. So in the next part, I will show you exactly the length that you'll need if you're using the same size plastic egg. Okay, so once you've built up your netting here, your netting portion, whatever you want to call it. I keep wanting to say bracelet, but obviously it's not going to be a bracelet. Basically, you want it to be 4 3/4 inches, give or take. So this one's like 4 3/4 or 4 5/8, something about that long. Now the egg, when I measured it, it was, and I'm going to put the tape around, and I think I showed it to you already, but I'll show you again. the egg with the measuring tape at the widest part. So the widest part is the seam where the egg opens up, this plastic egg. And so it's 5.5 is where it's at. So you can see that lines up to 5.5. So now the reason to make this smaller is because you want it to be nice and snug around the egg, and your netting actually has a little bit of movement, of give, so it stretches out a little bit. All right, so once you've done that, what you want to do is put a needle on your tailed thread. So this is actually my tailed thread, not my working thread. And my working thread's over here. So, and the reason for this is just kind of an easy way to close up your netting and to not worry about having to tie off your tail thread. Now I'm just going to fix the focus on this and wrap this around. And you can see there's a little bit of a gap, but it's not much. And what I'm going to do is actually going to sew this up with beads. And so this is the kind of gap you want to get. Also, the other way to know this, if you're using exactly the same size beads that I am using here, so if you're using 11s and 8s, then I have across the way 28s. So if you were to count all the 8s over here, just in this top row here, well, any of the rows, you would have 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that is what you're going to need. So if you're using this exact same size egg. But it also gives you an idea that if your egg is a little bit different in size, then you just need to make things a little bit smaller. Your netting should be smaller than the egg and so forth. So that's my working thread. This is the tail thread. This is where I started. It's a little bit shorter. I told you to leave a little bit of a thread. So now to sew this up, here's how we're going to do this. You're going to pick up 3. And you are coming out, so you should be coming out of an 8. And your tail thread should be, because this is where you started. So you started with an 8, and so you are going to go into this next 8. Like so. And then you're going to pick up 3 again. And you're going to note, see, this one is not sticking out, but this one is sticking out. This one has 2 rows of 11s going through it. This one has 1. So this is the one you want to go into. So it's similar if you're going to go back and forth between the 2 sides. Also, the other thing, I think I should have pointed this out, is these 2 sides should look different. So if you look at the side and is this one is sticking out, then this one is not. This one is sticking out, this one is not. So they're sort of the opposite, and that's how you're going to be able to sew this up close together. Now, to continue, you pick up 3, and you go into this one over here, because that one's sticking out, this one is not. And if you want, you should probably put a stopper bead or something here on your working thread, just so it doesn't do what it's doing right now. I should have done that. Okay, now to continue, my next bead that I'm going to go into is going to be on the top side. So I got my 3 11s, so I'm picking those up, and I'm going over into this one over here. And it's a little clumsy because all right. Pick up your 3 11s again. So in order to sew this up, you're only picking up 3 11s. That's all you got to do. And you're going to go into this one here. And our last one over here is going to be, you pick up 3 again, and you go straight up into this one. And then we just got to build our border piece. So I'm going to go pick up 3 once more. And if you can see which I'm coming out of this, all I'm going to do is go into this 8 over here. And that's going to have this whole piece close. And this piece should, it's going to shift a little bit, but not enough. It's going to stay on the egg. It should be tight enough that it stays on the egg. And so let me show you. It's shifting, but it should not come off because it should be tight, especially around the widest part. These parts might be a little bit loose, and we're going to tighten those up as we work. But for now, that's going to be, it's going to shift a little bit. And what I'm going to do is actually take my working thread, and I'm actually going to put a stopper bead into it, which I should have done when I first started. And since it was the working part of it, I didn't think about doing it. But okay, so that should keep everything in place. And then now go ahead and we can tie off. We can put some 1/2 inch knots and tie this part off. So I'm coming out of that 8 down here, and I'm just going to go through the next 3 of my 11s. And put a 1/2 inch knot here between that 11 and the 8. And you can repeat. So I'm just going to go down this way, and it doesn't matter. You just want to and one more. By the way, this is how you would add thread too. So you would just go and tie 1/2 inch knots at some point and just work your way to the location where you needed to get the thread to. So now I'm just going to go through this 8 and then work my way out to the edge here. And this way it pulls the thread in and it's set. And that's it. So this is on here, and it's going to shift. It's shifting, but it's not going to come off. You can see it's not coming off. All right. So now the next portion, I'm going to show you how to finish off the herringbone part on either side. So to finish up our egg here, so the next step is to go into, I'm coming out of this 8, and I'm going to go into the 3 11s here, and then I'm going to fill in the gaps between each of the 3s, or each of the 3 11s. So I'm going to pick up an 11, and I'm going to go into the next 3 11s. And pick up an 11 and go through the next 3 11s. And I'm going to do this all the way around the egg. And pick up an 11 and go through the next 3. And what you're going to do is actually tighten as you go too. So this should cinch. This is going to cinch the border of the egg, and it also cleans it up a little bit. And just like that. So that's all you're going to do, is to continue adding an 11 between those three. And you're going to do it on both sides. So again, over here, this is the working side where I put the stopper bead. See how your thread is most likely coming out of an 8. So just go into the next 3 11s and then continue adding an 11 on both sides. So once you've done that, I will show you how to do the herringbone part of this tutorial. All right, so on one side, I've actually added my bead, and I'm at the end. Now my thread is also very low, so I'm just gonna show you again how to tie off. I mean, you saw I'd already made some 1/2 inch knots with it, but I continued using this tail end of the thread, so go ahead and show you what to do. So I'm gonna add in my 1 bead here, and then I've got 1 more to add on this side, and then I've basically finished and I've gone all the way around. One thing you'll note is that this is gonna shift a little bit. Don't worry, just push it back into place and try to be as gentle with it as you can be. And then now continue through to the next 3 beads here. And part of the reason it's shifting is because you are cinching this as you're going. So it is going to do that a little bit. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you just kind of pop it back into place. And if there's a little bit of a gap, don't worry about that too, because that gap will adjust as you get the other side done. So what I'm going to do now is actually go into the beads within the netting. So I'm going to make 1 or 2 1/2 inch knots. I don't have a lot of thread left, so I don't have, probably just going to make 1. So I'm going to go ahead and make a 1/2 inch knot over here, and I'm not too concerned about it because I've already made knots with this. And in this case, I'm actually going to go into the loop backwards. It's a trick I use when my thread's gotten kind of short. And just pull the needle out. Just takes a little bit of finesse to do it, and just make sure that don't tighten this until it's right in position. So there, now it's in position correctly. And that's it. I'm not going to try to do this any further because you can see it's quite short. So now I can just pull it away. And I'm not going to worry about, it's not going to come undone because this isn't, it's tied pretty well. So from earlier. And that's it. That's all you got to do. All right, now to add thread. And I'll show you that in the next part. So I started working on the other side by adding the beads between the 3. So on this side, I added a bead between the 3. But on this side, because it's narrower, you may find that you don't need to add a bead. So in this case, for example, here, you can see that the 3 beads are kind of cinched up. So what I'm actually doing is just going through the beads and then continuing, and I'm not adding anything in between my groups of 3 here. So, and it's still helping to just cinch it up. So you may have to make a judgment call here depending on the type of seed beads that you're using. So these are silver lined Toho beads that I'm using. And over here were some check beads that I used. So in this situation, I actually had to put in a bead on this top portion. So I'm going to make sure we're comparing the same sides. So in this top portion, I actually had to do it, to add in the 3 beads to kind of cinch this together. And this one, it's turning out that I might not need it. So just something to keep in mind as you're working. So don't get frustrated if you find that this is actually, it's even more, there's more gap, then don't add the bead. Skip it and just tighten it up. That's all you have to do. So, and again, it's really sort of dependent on the seed bead you're using. Okay, so both sides are tightened up. So on this side, I ended up not adding any beads because there just wasn't necessary, but you can see it's nice and snug. against the egg, and that's where my working thread is, and it's still got the needle and it's over here. I'm going to set that aside because as you remember when we did this side, the bottom side of the egg, I did add a bead between the sets of 3 and then I tied off the thread. So now I'm going to go ahead and add more thread to this side and show you how to start the next part. And so typically what I do is I'll start over here and work my way up into the next. I start in the middle. You can start a little bit lower if you want, but this is where I start. So I know that I'm going to end up making 2 half-hitch knots because I'll make them right here with the 8s. So I start here somewhere in the middle. Bring your thread and leave a small tail. You don't need to leave very much thread over here because you're just going to trim it here. I mean, you can pull it away, whatever you want, but there's enough space between the knots here that you don't have to worry. Another thing you can do is put a stopper bead here and then make your knot. That'll make it a little less, it'll be a little bit easier to work with, especially if you've got a long piece of thread. So I got about maybe, I did an arm span, so it's about maybe a little less than 5. I'm 5 foot tall, but I probably didn't do a full arm span, so it's probably about 5 feet, maybe a little less on my needle here. I'm just going to go through it. And then, so I made the knot there. I'm going to continue up and I'm going to go ahead and make one more knot over here. And this is getting wrapped there, so I don't want that. Pull it out, pull this up. And let's see, I just want to make sure the focus, this is super, the seed beads are super shiny. So I want to make sure you guys can still see it and things don't blur because of the sparkle of the beads. But go ahead and make another half-hitch knot over here. And you can see this is now much tighter. It's still shifting a little bit, but once you get the herringbone portion of it in, it's not gonna shift. You'll be set. In case you're worried about that or you're noticing that happening, it's probably shifting less on you now than it was before. And now I just want to come out of the 8. And then what you're going to do is you want to come out of this middle bead here. So there's going to be, you remember this group of 3. So if you added a bead, there's going to be a bead sitting right on top of the 8. And then you'll have your 3 beads. And so I'm going to come out of this central bead. And pick up 2 of my 11s and go back around just that central bead. So I'm starting my herringbone here. And if it's tight enough, you should have a little bit of trouble getting through it, and that's okay. There we go. And there you go. So that's the start of our herringbone. And you want to go up the bead of one of the 2 beads that you brought up or that you added. Like that. And so my egg is reflective. It's picking up on my lights here. I'm going to now pick up 2. So I got my 2. I'm going to go down my bead here. And then I'm going to go up, go across, and go up the next 2. Then pick up 2. And go down just the 1. So hopefully you guys saw that. I only went down the 1, as you can see. I'm going to go across, but I'm actually going to go up 2 because that's how herringbone works. And you go up 2. I'm holding this down so it doesn't shift as much. So when I give this a tug, this whole thing isn't going to shift. So that's all. So And that's what you do. So I've got 3. I would say build 10. And so just continue until you've got 10 of these. So this is 3, count 10 and build that up. And then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I have done my herringbone strip here and I've got 10 stitches. So if I count this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I actually am going to leave this purposely short. I actually need 11. But I'm going to leave it short because in case you have to make a judgment call, depending on your egg, I'm going to show you how you can add beads later if something happens. So now what you want to do is to go on and build the next strip. So what you do is you go all the way down your strip on this side. So I'm coming out of my right side. So I'm just going to go down all of the beads on the left. And if you're working the other way around, then, you would just do it on the opposite side. It doesn't matter which side. So I've gone down all 10 beads here. Now you're down back to where you started. So here's our middle bead. And what you're going to do is go through that middle bead and then you are going to continue and you're going to skip over. Now this is kind of up to you. If you want to make more strips, that's perfectly doable. But what I'm going to do is actually skip the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to come out and go into the middle bead here in this section here. So let's just do this first. Make my way over. And so you can see that piece is still shifting a little bit. So that's okay. Don't worry. It's going to do that. So let's see, how many did I skip over? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I need to come out of this one here. And basically what I've done is there's 20 beads and I could have had you start right underneath the white and then skip over. There should be 4 beads in between. But since I did it in the spacing here, then you're just counting the spaces, the open spaces here. So if you count the open spaces, so I'm in this space here, 1, 2, 3, 4 is being skipped over, and I'm going to end up in this open space here. And then if you count the number of white beads in between, the 8s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and again, you end up in here. So either way, however you want to do it, you're going to do it exactly the same way. So I'm going to come out of I want to come out of the middle bead here in this space. Just like that. And then you are going to go ahead and start the herringbone strip here and do exactly the same thing that we did here. So what I did was I picked up 2 of my 11s and I went around that middle bead. And you might need to just push this up a little bit if you're having trouble getting into it. So there we go. Use your nail. Okay, so the whole piece is sliding around, so I don't want to push it up too far, but and there it is. So now what you're going to do is come up one of the 2 new beads that you just added, and then you're going to build. So you're going to pick up 2, not 3, and go down the first one. At this point, I think you guys will have the gist of it. Tighten everything. And then go up the 2 and then just build your herringbone this way. And that's it. So you're going to do this now. You're going to have a total of 4 strips, and you're going to build a total of 4 strips on this side, at least if that's what you want to do. You can build more if you want. 4, I think, looked best. So let me show you my sample again. So here in my sample, I did 4 and it worked out nicely. So in this case, I actually had it right over my larger bead, and then I had 4 beads in between, and then I started the next one. And then I connected them together up here at the top. So it worked out really pretty, and I think, but again, it's really up to you how you want to do this. So I made my second strip of herringbone, and this time I actually did 11 stitches. And I know to do 11 because I've already, done a, prototype of this. And this one is actually 10, the first one that I built. And one of the things that I do once I finish my 11 is I'm adding my 8 at the top. So I'm just picking up 1 8 and I'm just going to add it. I'm going to go down. So I'm coming out of the one on the right here. I'm going to go down the one on the left, just like I would if I was doing normal herringbone and I was picking up 2 11s. And so it's just going to sit here like this at the top. And you can go back around it to just kind of secure it. And then through it, and then go down. So I'm just going to go down all of my 11 beads here on this side. And I'm not going to be able to go through them all at once. That's okay. I'm going to go through the last 3. So this is what you have so far. Now, one thing to note is that if you do happen to do this and you find that you either are too short or even if you're too long won't matter so much. But if you're too short, I will, what we're going to do is just add more beads to make it work anyway. So, and basically the trick to this is if you find that you did this and you did 11 on each side and found that these were still too far apart, and then what you do is you add more beads on in between. So in this case, this is my 8 here. So this is the rondelle I'm using in this one, and in this one it's the 8. So I used the 8s and I connected them again with seed beads between them. So what you're just going to do is just add more seed beads, and your circle will be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. And you don't have to go back and undo the whole thing. So, and if it's smaller and they're closer together, then you would add less beads. Either you'd add no beads between your 8s, or you would add just 1 bead between them. It just will depend on how it works out. Because, if you don't have the exact same plastic Easter egg, or they're slightly different based on the brands or whatever, then, we can make these slight adjustments. And so let's keep going, and I'll show you how to do the connection at the end. That's it. That's all that's left once we get all the little herringbone strips made. Okay, so I've got all 4 of my strips here all done, and I've got my 8 O's at the top on 3 out of the 4 because I made that first one 1 stitch shorter because I wanted to show you how to, make, fix mistakes or make adjustments if you need to. So I'm going to connect these together, and it looks to me like I can probably put 2 beads in between the 8s and connect them together. So I'm coming out, I've added my 8, I'm coming out of it. So I want to come out of the white, my 8 here. I'm coming out of the 11 here, that is, so I'm just going to go across. And up into the 11, and then now come out of that 8. And here we are. So I'm going to pick up 2, and I'm going to go into the next 8. And they're just going to come together like so. So you got my 2/8, and you guys can see that. So I'm trying to pull away from the reflectiveness of it. And I'm sorry that this is as reflective as it is, but when I purchased the eggs, I had no idea. And then here's the next one. I added 2 between, and then I went into the next 8. Now for this one, because I'm short, what you want to do is pick up your 2 11s and then pick up your 8 and then 1 11. Like so. And you're going to go into the 11 over here. Like so. And I'm going to turn this over so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Then I'm going to go actually across. So I'm here. I'm going to go across. Sorry, this is a little bit tricky because I'm trying to hold on to it. And I'm going to go into the 11 across. Like so. I'm going to pick up an 11 and I'm going to go into the 8 over here. There is a method to my madness. You guys will see. Basically, you're doing the herringbone in kind of a reverse way. So now you can see I added on an extra stitch of herringbone with the 8, and all you have to do is go back down this first bead and one thing you want to make sure is this is pretty tight, so you don't want the slack in the thread. So I'm just going to tighten that up. I'm just going to pull and then tighten everything. There we go. So you can see it's all tightened up. Now all I want to do is connect these 2 blue beads together, because that's normally how it would look in herringbone. So, but you don't want to connect those 2 together until everything here is nice and tight, because otherwise you won't be able to do it. So I was coming out of this one, I went across and up this one. Now I'm just going to go back, and you're going to ignore everything else. And you can see it's still should be okay. It's still a little looser than I would like, and so this is going to make it a little bit harder to tighten it up. And if you need to, you can go ahead and undo that. So I'm not going to, I think it should be okay once I get it all tightened up. And there we go. So go across to the blue, just the blue, ignore your 8/0. And come back up the blue. And now you want to go through the 8/0. Go through that 8/0, and we are going to connect it over into the other strip now. So now all you need to do is pick up 2 of the 11s and go through these beads and just reinforce this. And there it is. So there is our connection. It's all done. I'm going to go ahead and go through it again because it should just come together. Now, all I'm doing is reinforcing. Don't pull too tight so that you're shifting the whole piece up, because this piece is not connected yet. But that should be it. It's all done. So now what I'm going to do is tie some half-inch knots and tie this off. Okay, well that was not fun because I just tied the knot and it didn't pull my loop all the way through. Yeah, that happens every once in a while. Let's see if I can just get it. Oh, there we go. Tug it in. And there it is. So that's it. You can tie a few more half-inch knots if you want. I'm going to go ahead and tie one more here. And then just weave away. I'm just going to go down into my herringbone here. And I'm done. One side is done. So I just have to finish up this other side here now. And I'm just going to repeat. So there's nothing different that I'm going to change. I'm going to do the exact same thing here that I did on this side. So I will show you the finished egg once I'm done. All right, this is all done. Check it out. My beaded Easter eggs are done and I think they look cute. So I hope you guys like this tutorial and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.